but you chill, like, and then I'll do whatever you Good evening, Campitello. Welcome back, sports fans, to the IFSC Senior European Cup of Lead Climbing. It's finals time here in Campitello di Fassa. This evening, the Dolomites form the backdrop for this, the inaugural stage of the Continental Circuit on the wall of the Adele Climbing Gym in Campitello. Once again, Val di Fassa writes a new chapter in its competition climbing history. The IFSC European Climbing Championships of Lead and Speed were held here in 2017. Where the men's field, Roman Disrange from France was victorious over Domen Skofik of Slovenia, who took silver, and Stefano Gazolfi of Italy, who took bronze. Whilst in the women's competition, Annek Verhoeven of Belgium won gold, with Mina Markovic of Slovenia taking silver and Jessica Pilz of Austria taking bronze. More recently, the third round of the 2024 Coppa Italia Lead also took place here, and these events have established Campitello di Fassa as a key location for climbing competition in Italy and indeed Europe. This weekend, Campitello hosts the first stage of the Senior European Cup here at the Adele Climbing Wall. Round 2 will be in Switzerland in July, and Round 3 in Toulouse in France at the end of October, beginning of November. 109 athletes from 18 countries competed here with one another yesterday in Campitello to secure a place in this morning's semi-finals. As this morning's semi-finals progressed, we watched the first competitor, Felix Mader of Austria, step out into the stadium and go deep into the men's route. His result stood the test of time, and he secured himself a place in this evening's finals in 7th. Meanwhile, the rest of the men progressed in quite a linear fashion, actually, until the penultimate competitor to step out here in front of the crowd was Rhys Connellan from Great Britain, and he made the only top of the men's route. The women's semi-finals were a little more heated at the top of the leaderboard, with 2 Austrian climbers being pushed out of the finals due to countback, despite them having secured the same score as the 8th climber from France, Julia Chanordi. She made finals in the last position. And then finally, positions 7 to 2 were made up of women with the same score of 43 plus, with move 44 on our semi-final route proving just too much for them. But Laura Rigora, one of the local athletes, stepped up to the plate and made light work of move 44, and she managed to complete the route, giving us our only top of the women's semi-final. The semi-finals routes have now been stripped by our route setters, and we have a fresh pair of routes for these finals. Among the male participants to make this evening's finals, we have Riccardo Vicenzini from Mantova in representing Italia, Pierre Marzullo from Grenoble in France, and Rhys Connellan, who qualified him first for this evening's finals. I will now pass you over to Simone Roina here in the stadium to make the introductions of the athletes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first European Cup 2025. There was a man that once looked at me and told me, more or less 20 years ago, Simone, do you want to give up? And he told me that with a huge smile, like, don't worry, if you want to give up, I'm with you. If you want to go on, I'm anyway with you. This guy was a silver World Cup winner, and is a person that give all of his life to support the climbing movement in Italy and internationally. And I remember after 20 years this question, do you want to give up? And my answer obviously has been not, because I follow his example and he never give up dedicating his life for the other person. So I want to remember with that Christian Brenna, a person that must have been here today and is not physically with us, but for sure in our heart he is with us. So with this lesson Do you want to give up? And we dance, no? Let's check it out. The athletes that have not given up to get to this moment. That is the final round for the first European Lead Cup 2025 in Val di Fassa. So let's start with the ladies. The first ladies have been already won a bronze medal in the World Cup. Have been the third girl in the history to climb a 9-beam, and she is an Olympian. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome in the stadium representing France, Giulia Cianordi. Next athlete have been World Youth Champion and already have been a World Cup semi-finalist representing Ukraine, Nika Potakova. Next athlete, many-time National Cup winner, already 4th place in the European Cup and 9th place in the World Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, representing Italy, Claudia Ghisolfi. Next athlete, it's a young gunner from Germany, already in the top 10 at the European Youth Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, for Germany, Mia Gutenberger. Next athlete, it's a 360 climbers because she already got to be in the 10, in the best 10 in the bouldering European Cup, and so now she is also in the best 10 in the lead European Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, representing Great Britain, Zoe Petermans. Let's go on with the next athlete. She has been already a gold medalist in the European Cup. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me in the stadium representing France, Ina Placeau Digia. And so let's go on with the next. This girl have already been two-time European Youth Champion and bronze medalist at the World Youth Championships. Ladies and gentlemen, representing Spain, welcome in the stadium, Itziar Martinez Almendros. And now here we are. She is actually the European champion. She has been bronze medalist at the World Championships. She won gold in the World Cup. She has been two-time Olympian and second girl in the history to climb another B. Ladies and gentlemen, representing Italy, Laura Rogora. So let's go on with the men. Let's start with the Rainbow Rocket for the male final. Representing Belgium, please welcome in the stadium Arnaud Louis-Apert. Next athlete have been already a gold medalist in European Youth Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, representing Austria, Felix Mader. And now here we are. This guy has been already a national youth champion and already a bronze medalist in the European Youth Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome in the stadium representing Italy, the Wolf, Riccardo Vicentini. Next athlete is just at his second international event and is the second time that he got a position into the top 10. Ladies and gentlemen, representing France, Lyonnais Albert Masmoudi. Next athlete is athlete that took already two times the fourth place in the European Youth Cup, and so now he's looking for his first medal. Ladies and gentlemen, representing France, Akian Echar. And so now here we are. 5-time gold medalist in the European Cup, 3-time European Youth Champion, 4th place at the World Youth Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, representing Czech Republic, Jan Stipek. Next athlete have been already 2-time gold medalist in the European Youth Cup and easy actually the European Youth Champion. Ladies and gentlemen, representing France, Pierre Marzullo. And so the last, aka the best in the semi-final round, 2-time bronze medalist at the European Youth Cup and 5th place at the World Youth Championships. Ladies and gentlemen, representing Great Britain, Rhys Collon. And so, ladies and gentlemen, dear Campitello audience, those are your athletes, so introduce yourself to the athletes. So thank you guys and ladies. You can back to the ISO and so we can start the comp. Allora ci siamo, stiamo per iniziare con questa prima finale di stagione della Coppa Europa che apre le porte alla stagione di Coppa del Mondo. Come vi raccontavo prima, tra una settimana avremo Innsbruck dove si chiude la stagione Mulder e inizia la stagione Elite.
So we've had a characteristically rousing introduction from Simone Reina here live at the Adel Sports Centre in Campitello di Fassa, and we were just preparing to welcome the first climbers out into this amphitheatre in front of the climbing wall. I am joined by none other than Nicken Daniels from Sweden, who's one of the members of the route setting team here. Hello Nicken, how are you?
Hey man, great to be here again.
Super, thanks for joining us again. You can give us some, looking forward to your insights into these routes, as we've not actually had time to speak prior to this. I think you guys had a big job to do resetting the routes from semi-finals, of course, and now you just mentioned that the routes have switched, so we had the women competing on the right-hand side of the wall and the men on the left, and now we're switched.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Okay. Oh, you can turn him down. So, we looked at, in the introduction, we looked at a few of the climbers who are going to be joining us in the men's field. And for the women's field, we have a couple of Italian girls. Claudia Gazzolfi from Torino with 85 participations in the IFSC competition calendar to her name. Zoe Petermans from Cardiff in Great Britain, who looks strong on the women's route and one of the only members of the field from the semi-finals who might have even managed to do that difficult move 44 high up on the route. And then last but no means least, Laura Rogora of Trento here in Italy, the second female athlete representing Italia here in this competition. So we will welcome the first climbers out momentarily. We will have Arnaud Liopert from Belgium and Julia Chanordi from France, who of course qualified in 8th position in the semi-finals this morning. And the day has transitioned to quite a warm evening, I would say. We still have a reasonable breeze, although the heat of the day really seems to have set in here, and I'm a little bit more hot under the collar than I was this morning, that's for sure. It's crept up to just shy of 30 degrees here in the commentary booth. We've got a monitor giving us a bit of information about the conditions, and that's nearly 30 degrees in the shade, so I'm sure the climbers will be experiencing a bit of that breeze in this open air stadium, but it's going to be a bit hot under the collar for them. as they progress up the wall.
I,
So-
for one, am very happy that it's as warm as it is. I think this is much closer to the conditions of what we were testing the finals under.
Ah, that's good.
So, at least for us on the setting team, it feels like we have a better idea of how these routes feel in these conditions. It's always not so nice to be surprised in finals when the conditions turn perfect after a very warm or a week of setting.
Okay, yeah, that makes good sense. Yeah, I was speaking a bit to Laura before, well, in between the semi-finals and finals, and she was saying, yeah, with very dry skin, a bit of humidity is necessary, and with it being it's particularly dry now, so with things still remaining higher temperatures, I guess with a little bit of sweat in your hands, might favour you on these polyurethane holds. As we have our first climber on the wall, gentleman from Belgium, Arnaud Leprat, probably butchering that surname, excuse me, sets off on this men's route on the extreme right of the wall. So similar sort of line and length, or identical length actually, to the women's semi-final, Nick, on this right-hand side.
Yes.
Sort of climbing up. The volumes maintain their position on the wall, so you've got the same sort of profile that the women have had to wrestle with, but obviously a completely fresh set of holds in a different sequence of moves. What are we expecting from this early sequence for the men?
We're coming up on actually the first question mark for the athletes.
Okay.
We're coming up once you enter this the overhang. You hit this next 2 yellow crimps, and then you do quite a committing jump out into the black Dual-Tex X-Colt hold.
Okay.
And we were talking with the setting team before, and we were expecting to lose some athletes in this port.
Ah, this early?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, the angle is so big. I mean, the black hold you're jumping to is quite good, but without the use of thumbs, it's very easy
Nice.
to mess it up.
That was nicely executed there. Yeah, it didn't seem like it required much energy, but maybe that's it. Is it quite a tentative move?
Yeah, it's definitely like the position feels quite off, and it's always jumping from a vertical face into an overhang.
Yeah.
It has its challenges
Yeah.
to control how the body works and how the momentum will feel for you. After this, for the men, you have maybe 10 moves that are a little bit more of transport climbing.
Okay.
You just build up some pump, slowly increasing the intensity. And then when you get out to the 2 hexagon volumes, that's when the intensity will jump up quite a bit. For the woman, it's quite similar. As we see Julia Shonadi, she's found a good knee bar. But it follows a very similar line. You go up, you enter a traverse sequence to get over into the main head wall. And then the intensity will kick back quite a lot.
Okay. So Arnaud making his way through this 50 degree profile, the white section of the wall, managing to place his feet first and take some strain off, and sort of crossing underneath. Is there limited ways in which to climb through this section on the men's route?
Yeah, there's really, I would say there's almost only one beta, at least for this section.
Yeah.
There's small variations, but you need to end up in this position that he's in now, with the heel on the black, and then attaining this.
What looks like a very small edge below this sort of slopey black macro that he's now got with the right hand.
Oh yeah, and it's very blocked.
And you can see now he's really stepping out into this sort of third profile of the wall, which is on the fringes, on the right-hand fringes of the pillar that makes up the central part of this climbing structure. And we're in steep territory just because you lose your feet out to the left, really. I mean, actually the profile of the wall is not as steep perhaps as the white or grey section, but it's about to become a whole lot steeper for Arnaud as he moves up and towards the next climbing holds.
This is definitely the second part where we're starting to expect to lose climbers. This clip itself is quite tricky to find a good position, and that hold is really not so good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you knew that within a breath as soon as he made the move for it.
Yeah.
You had a chuckle to yourself.
This was one of the small changes that we made between the semis and finals. Previously, the right hand that he's going to on the volume was quite good.
Okay.
It's substantially worse now and much more blocked.
Yeah, you've watched a strong men's field in the semi-finals and adapted the routes as such, I presume.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we're back with Julia. She's making excellent progress into this head wall of the structure here.
She's making very good progress, almost worryingly so.
Yeah, very steady climbing.
But I think for the viewers, you shouldn't be so surprised. Yulia hurt her knee during the warm-up for the semis.
Okay.
And as her left knee, and there was very many intense left heel hooks on the women's semi, so I think that definitely impacted her performance there.
Oh, wow, that's some good insight. Yeah, so maybe her semi-final performance not representative of what she's capable of, and she's really proving that here. I mean, we're into the meat of the finale of this route. What she tests.
Wow.
What
Okay.
she got to hold here.
Come on, Yulia. These are not so good. They're
Yeah, that looks
very
incredibly
slopey.
slopey for the right hand.
Yeah. And as you see, the top hold is blocked on the
Yeah.
left side, so you have to commit much more than what you would like to in this position.
Okay.
But an incredibly good performance here for the first climber out.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Incredibly stressful as well, but maybe we'll have a similar situation for the men's semi as well, where
Yep.
the first competitor has a really good performance and then it can
Indeed.
drop a little bit.
Yeah, who was it that we saw come out early and do so very well in the men's field, which give you the jitters?
It was Felix Meder from Austria.
And you're talking about stressful for you. Oh, well, at least you're not the chief.
No.
But you guys work as a team, and I'm sure you have. Yeah, great group, I'd imagine. So a couple of local setters, Stefan Scarperi of Kletterhalle Eppen, or the Appiano Palestra Rampicata in Appiano sulla Strada del Vino, which is local to Bolzano. And then Luca Camanni of chief setter of New Rock and Orobia, respectively, in Brescia and Bergamo. And then you have a French chief who
Yes.
I don't know.
Christophe Cazin
Okay.
lives in a small town, I think near Fontainebleau.
Ha.
So this is like the second time I've had the pleasure to work with him on a team. We worked in Dornbirn together last year for the first time, and
Oh, terrific.
yeah, he has a really good feeling for the field and very easy to work with.
French route setters and Fontainebleau go hand in hand, don't they? Jackie paving the way, but I know Joris Delaney is based there as well, or deep in the forest in Larchant. I always think lucky guys, but then Joris tells me he's always travelling, so maybe not so lucky. Nice to be home in the forest, I'm sure.
And now we'll see if both Nika and Felix can have as good of a performance as they had in this morning's semi. They
Yeah,
both looked-
Nika stood out in the lead for a long time, did she not?
She had a very early high point and was able to hold on to it for a long time. She was looking very fit.
Yeah. And then effectively all of the ladies who surpassed her made the same move, 43 plus I guess it was, but just presumably scored better than her in the qualification round, which put them ahead.
Nice. Felix has passed the first jump.
Yeah, I won't be over the moon seeing many of the guys coming off at that point.
I think if we can lose maybe one climber at this point, we would be happy.
Okay,
Then,
it would be as designed.
yeah, it would have like fulfilled its purpose on the route of
Yeah.
adding some stress, and maybe someone gets a little bit too stressed.
Yeah.
I think the women's route is much more sustained in that way. There's not too many moves that are going to be big knockoff moves. It should
Okay.
be more the accumulation of exhaustion that'll
Okay.
will take them off.
Yeah, in fact, in some ways, the requirements of the climbers have switched. Obviously, the men's semi-final route was in the same profile as the women's and vice versa. So we're seeing a very similar path for these routes, moving through this Adele wall in the climbing stadium here in Campitello di Fassa. What amazing surroundings we've got for this finals. Surrounded on all sides by the Dolomites. Mountain passes leading into this small village, which is a ski resort in the winter and a place for hiking, climbing, mountain biking, road biking. Real outdoor sports person's paradise.
Felix is looking very relaxed through this beginning section. It's good. He climbed very well this morning as well.
Yeah, showing a very tactical approach. Sort of sinking into that position to conserve energy. It seems like he's had a moment of pause and a bit of a rest there. And then this splits position. And that's presumably taking quite a lot off the arms.
Yeah.
Whether you can match that hold, I mean, he's moving straight through it, so not spending any time there. Obviously not feeling comfortable enough to to secure much of a rest. Oh, and he's come off at
and there
exactly
it
the same
goes
point.
again.
Yeah, yeah. That
It's
hold must be
really
particularly poor.
it's really quite tricky. I think you need to get a couple centimeters higher into the hold than what you expect to need to get.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, it's good if you can slow down the movement as soon as you come into the hold, but if you're coming a bit more uncontrolled, it's very tricky.
Yeah, requires a lot from your contact strength.
Yeah.
And your contact strength alone if you do it in that method, I guess.
And it's as you see, like currently, the athletes, they're sitting on their right foot when they're trying to do this move. It's very crucial where you place the left foot and how you're going to utilize it to create the stability needed. But now we'll see how Nika tackles this next portion on the women's route.
So with that, Felix from Austria moves into provisional first place. Based on countback, he has scored exactly the same amount of moves with 28 plus as Arno. As we just see Nika fall from the wall. Yeah, that brings a rather abrupt end to her finals here. Feels like she could have climbed deeper into that route.
Yeah. Just went a little bit short in that portion, unfortunately.
Yeah, so she's about to move to like a block volume again. Yeah, at this point looking very comfortable, but see these final moments. I wonder if she rattled the hold that was blocking the hold that she moved from.
Almost looked that way.
Yeah, it's a big volume to. Well, you're pulling off something small beneath a big volume. You've really got to get your hand away from the wall and get it up and over the top, like climbing around a sort of big feature outdoors that's blocking you from making the next move in a very direct fashion. So our third athletes out here into the Campitello di Fassa climbing stadium of Adele. We have local athlete Claudia Gazzolfi from Torino, and we have Riccardo Vicentini from Mantova in the center of the country. So Italian athletes simultaneously to pull on here.
I think it's about to get very loud in the stadium here.
Yeah, we have a very full amphitheater here in front of the climbing structure, and all eyes are now poised on the climbers in blue as they make their way to the wall. Claudia just taking a little bit longer to initiate her attempt. Meanwhile, Riccardo is on, and he's on his way off up the wall. Now it's moments like these where I wish the climbers were on the wall independently of one another, wanting to watch these ascents in great detail, one by one. But Claudia looked nice in semi-final, and she went high into the route, but she didn't look in danger of completing that very powerful move which only Laura managed, her compatriot from Italy. Let's see how she's feeling here as Riccardo makes that dynamic move.
Looked a little bit sketchy there almost for him.
Yeah.
Not completely comfortable.
Yeah, there's so many climbing styles on display. Maybe he's not the most comfortable in that way, but he's still safe in this steep section. Claudia with the drop knee in here while she clips. One of the more secure positions on the roof, or prior to getting to the roof. We spoke about this climbing structure during the semi-final phase of this competition being particularly steep. In fact, it's incredibly deceptive when you're just looking square onto the wall. Very hard to see just what sort of angles these guys are dealing with, but Riccardo's in a 50-degree section approximately in this wall, so most of the force required from his fingertips to hold on, and then just trying to find some ingenious body positions, using his heels, hugging that hexagonal volume beneath his feet to take some of the strain, trying to climb as efficiently as possible. He's still got a good way to go, and you can see as that profile of the wall, as he transitions up through this green section of the wall, this is the move. Can he make it? And he's incredibly static there.
Very well done.
Beautifully executed by Riccardo. I mean, he spent time pulling through that in slow motion almost.
Yeah.
Making sure he made contact, good contact with that small hold that the previous two climbers have failed to find underneath the tips of their fingers. And he's into what's almost the horizontal section of this wall. It's about 70 degrees up there. And he's managed to rotate round and catch his feet, which gives him something back.
He's getting a little bit out of sequence, but he seems to have saved it now.
So crossing through with the right, is this what you guys had attended as a route setting team? Nicken?
We'd actually intended to enter into the volume and then bump the left hand for the most efficient beta.
Okay.
But it seems he was able to get through without too much issue, but it is going to cost some extra energy there.
Yeah, he's obviously feeling that, really feeling that, and taking a moment on this volume to recover. How much recovery he's getting, we will only know as he initiates the next movements on what seem almost invisible holds without the benefit of the cameras and the close-ups. But he's made 2 more hand moves.
Oh, what a good effort from Ricardo.
Yeah, that was excellent. He was very high on the roof there. With only a few hand movements to go, he's really set a strong marker for the other male competitors to have to surpass if they want to take first place. And meanwhile, Claudia's still on the route.
She's making very good progress now, entering into the final portion, coming through this slight pocket sequence before entering into some larger slopers again.
She's almost been on the wall for 4 minutes now. Goes without saying she must be feeling it, but she seems to be climbing very efficiently in the earlier phase of the route, using those Egyptians and keeping as much to her feet, and now she's really fighting with this compression or outward compression. Amazing. Will she get something back off that knee bar? I think she will. It's allowed her to make another hand move and secure another point.
I'd imagine she doesn't have so much time, but I think with this she should be able to recover quite a lot, it seems.
Yeah, with that knee bar in, she could almost be without hands if she dare. But she's decided not to spend any more time in that position, and she's now matched the volume above, and she's moving out into this hexagonal shape.
I think
there's a number of screw-ons on.
The fatigue is coming quite hard now. You see the elbows are definitely popping up.
Yeah. Fantastic work. She's secured another hold.
There she goes.
Perhaps she'll score a plus with that dynamic move above. Provisional scores are 45 for Claudia Gazolfi, which puts her a few points off Giulia's amazing early effort with 48 plus. So Giulia from France sitting in first place in this women's competition with 48 plus, then Claudia Gazolfi with 46. And Nika with a premature fall, only managing to score 31 plus. Really separates her from the field. So Nicken will now leave us. Thanks, Nicken, much appreciated. Great insights into these routes and the materials used as we're about to enter the halfway point of this finals here in Campitello di Fassa, with the 4th athletes of a field of 8 to qualify. We'll be momentarily joined by Mia Guttenberger from Germany and Younes Albert Massimodi from France. They are our 4th finalists, having qualified in 5th position.
Let's go on with the next 2 athletes, ladies and gentlemen. For the ladies, representing
Younes from France already staring up at that profile of the wall. It's an intimidating structure here at the Adel climbing wall. Incredibly steep structure. I misjudged it immediately, thinking that first profile was only something like 20 degrees odd, but it's 35 potentially. The next section for the men's route being almost 50 degrees, and a bit of respite around the pillar, and then up into the roof, which is 70. And then if you make it that far, the finishing holds in the first instance of the head wall of this climbing structure, which is where the angle eases off. Mia's first to start here. She establishes herself on the wall, placing a good heel hook and securing these small crimps that are screwed onto this wooden volume here. Looks like fairly secure climbing for the girls who make a start here. Nothing too precarious. Just requires incredibly efficient work to ensure you save every single percent of your energy and force for the later stages of this route. Deep breaths, precision, accurate footwork are what's required, I think, as she moves up into the section where Claudia found those two drop knees, one after the other on these two vertical pinches, turned footholds for her left foot. As Younes from France completes a dynamic move, the one that Nicken told us was particularly precarious for these gentlemen. He seems to complete it with good form and finds a comfortable position to stare up at the next moves that will face him in the next meters of this wall. I would refer to Mia Guttenberger as a lead specialist, judging by the competition she's previously competed in. I only see one boulder competition back in 2001 to her name. The rest of her 15 participations on the IFSC circuit have been in the lead realm. Younes now going feet first. Finding very good body positions to be as efficient as possible, bunching up and finding that sort of clamp on the volume, using a toe for the left and a heel for the right. Incredibly efficient work. Younes actually only has one participation in the IFSC circuit to his name, and it was a lead climbing competition in 2002. As he just takes a fall as he tries to progress into the upper section of this route. He's made it more than halfway, but it's not going to be enough for a place in the top three, unfortunately. Or am I mistaken? Actually, he's matched Felix and matched Arnaud. 28 plus. I stand corrected. He sits in second place now due to his excellent semi-final and qualification performances. 4 more climbers to join us here at the Adele climbing structure in Val di Fassa. So this provisional leaderboard could, of course, flip on its head with their performances. As we see in Mia Guttenberger, she's progressed to hold 39. Not seeming to struggle with these pockets as she carefully moves to this mint-coloured sort of slopey edge. She's looking strong here. Claudia was already struggling with that opposition move, and you could see she was struggling through the shoulders, as opposed to Mia here, who's looking in good form for how far she's come. Very tentative there, though. Only, as I'm saying so, she only makes it to that pocket with her fingertips, and I don't think she's going to score as well as Claudia. Having said that, she was momentarily granted 46, but now with this live scoring system, 45 plus, so yeah, a plus point behind Claudia. So Claudia Gazolfi still sits in second place behind Julia Chanrodi with what looks like a very impressive 48 plus, with the 3 other female climbers having come and given us a reference point. Yeah, excellent climbing here from Mia, but then just not catching that enough to gain stability, and I think she lost her right foot in that last moment. And the combination of those 2 errors, or those 2 negative factors, has seen her come off the wall. Just catching a replay, giving us a good close-up of Younes's performance there. on that move that has seen so many of the guys fall, and he looked incredibly close to holding it. I'm surprised he didn't actually. He made the move nicely, in control, in good slow fashion, as is what's required. But it wasn't to be. So we will welcome Zoe Petermans from Great Britain and Akian Ekta from France. Being a British expat, of course, I was paying particular attention to Zoe's performance and Reese's in the men's, and she looked excellent on the women's semi-final. And moments before coming off, instead of going directly to the hold, which was the intended beater by the route setter, she did test a sort of a hold outright, which was a bit of a red herring, or effectively a foothold for the later stages of the climb. And I wonder if that just drained her a little bit and she wasn't able to make the 44th move. So she ended up with a score no higher than all of those other girls who scored 44 plus in the semi-finals. Let's see if she can give an account of herself here that does her abilities justice. Having said that, her semi-finals was a particularly good one. Akian making the dynamic move to the black slopey dual text volume, looked fairly steady there. Comfortable in these dynamic moves. Oh, I'm finding a toe hook above his head to take a bit of the strain off. That's the first time we've seen that on this route. Lots of these climbers taking skills and techniques from Reeves' routes previously completed, indoors and out. And also our route setters gaining lots of experience in climbing on the rock to then transfer some of those sequences of moves or specific types of movement onto these indoor climbing walls to test these competition climbers. Both of these climbers set off at a similar time, so they both have just over 4 minutes remaining in their allotted time period of 6 minutes in total. We haven't really seen time be a factor. These climbs aren't overly long, although the women's climb does have this long traverse section and a couple of potential rest points, which, if you're too greedy, might drain that clock, making it dangerously close towards the top. Let's see if that becomes a factor for anyone later. Akian in a really deep lock position here with his left hand, and just deciding to readjust and take the strain off for a moment with his left heel. And he's found a small hold. I think he was thinking about going direct with his right hand to the black hold, which he will take next, and successfully does. And now he's out into this pinch, which the climbers match. Right hand below the left, getting a good handful and moving out into this sort of right hand section of the pillar, getting some serious encouragement from the crowd now as the amphitheatre erupts in a crescendo of noise. I think this crowd wants to see the upper section of this men's route. We've seen a little bit more action in the upper section of the women's. Let's see if Akian can establish himself in this next almost horizontal section of the climbing structure here at Adel. He's managed to find a couple of moments respite there before pressing up. And now he's fighting with these small holds, and he's managed to rotate his feet out wide, which give him good opposition for his hands, and in theory should be a more secure position. And if he can match this hold, I would hope that he could come out of this and make some form of slight recovery, but making this next clip is going to be particularly difficult. He looks like he's really fighting now, yeah, and he's off the wall. Valiant effort. All of a sudden, that route just looked a little bit too much. Now we focus in on Zoe as we get a full screen picture of her ascent. I call it an ascent. I'm willing her to make a full ascent of this route. Let's go all the way to the top. Powerful climbing Massive move up with the left hand there from Zoe. And she's in an extremely similar position here to Giulia. 48, and she's made the distance for the top hold and held it without any real concern, I would say. She made a much bigger dynamic move with much more rotation than Giulia. She secures the top of this route, and she's the first woman to do so in this finals. That, of course, puts her in first position. With only 3 female climbers to come, she's got to be incredibly pleased with that execution. The only way she could lose her top spot is if somebody had performed better in semi-finals and qualifications and manages to top this final route as well. And then we'll be looking at a countback situation. Wow, this women's finals really heated up now. I'm intrigued to see what occurs in these next 3 attempts that we see. I'm just going to get the opportunity to see this powerful move for the last hold. Yeah, throwing right over the top. I mean, she's in similar line actually to where Giulia found herself, but that mint blocker behind the violet hold, which she's holding there, seemed to cause Giulia a little bit more problem, and she wasn't able to hold that final hold. Incredible climbing. Beautiful routes, cutting a great path through this wall as we welcome Ina Dijiga from France and Jan Štipek from Czech Republic.
And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome for the male category.
So Ina from France
Czech Republic,
competed in the European Cup in Bologna at level 24, which is the 24-meter route climbing gym in Bologna. Really impressive structure. Ina actually took the win there back in September 2024. Since then hasn't competed on the IFSC circuit, but we know this is the first round of 3 European Cup competitions for these seniors to compete in, so maybe this is another run at the European Cup title for her. Meanwhile, Jan is on and progressing up the wall. This first section of the wall, which is approximately 35 degrees before it kicks back into a 45-50 degree white panel, which contains the hold, which he will make the dynamic move to, or attempt to make the dynamic move to momentarily. He's up into this small undercut with a left hand, and he's establishing a wide foot position. I wonder if he'll try to jump out of that, or if he'll sort of center himself over that left hand foot. Oh, he's going high foot method and almost locking it. Wow. No, still dynamic. Still ended up footless at the end of the movement, but yeah, quite a powerful method, but a very secure one to ensure he made the distance. His last couple of competitions were on the boulder discipline. One of them was here in Italy in May at the European Championships, which was held at Arobia in Bergamo. Beautiful lead and boulder climbing gym in the city of Bergamo, just east of Milan. And then he also competed in boulder in the World Cup in Prague. And that was at the beginning of this month. Only 16 days ago. Sorry, 14 days ago. So let's see how he makes his transition to lead. He's mixed it up this season with 4 boulder comps and 2 lead comps. So obviously playing with both disciplines. Obviously it pays dividends being a lead climber and incredibly fit, whilst entering a bouldering competition with an incredibly grueling qualifications, semis and final rounds in the boulder discipline. So having those bags of fitness from all of the route climbing training, I think pays dividends. I'm sure that was one of the aspects of many that Toby Roberts benefited from during his Olympics triumph. So back on the wall with Ina on the left hand side of your screens. She's in a rather, what I would refer to, calmer part of this women's route. one in which you have to make a very cautious transition from left-hand side of the wall into the centre, sort of establish yourself in the pillar. Meanwhile, Jan's made that dynamic move to the small edge. And he's looking good in this position. Actually taking a little flick of the left hand to shake some lactic out before transitioning his body weight fully to that left hand to make this clip here, out in the, well, hanging out in space. Really giving you an idea of just how steep this structure is. Jan's currently on 32, move 32. Only 2 moves away from Akian Eketar from France. Let's see if he can make those 2 moves, or if the angle of this wall is just going to prove too much and push him off. Oh, slow and powerful, careful and controlled, and he's made 2 more moves. But now he has to reach down and secure that clip that's swinging free below him. Has he? Oh, he's managed to hold the carabiner and do it. Well executed from Jan. Looks like he could be knocking on the door of Ricardo with his 37. He's made 1 more move. He's looking particularly pumped now. He's on a very thin crimp. Ah, yeah. Yeah, the body language was just looking a bit fatigued there as he creaked away from the wall. Just not enough left in the forearms and the fingertips to maintain good contact with that small crimp and make the next move. But that was an amazing effort, and that's put him in 2nd place with the current rankings. Only Pierre from France and Reese from Great Britain to go. And now Ina. She secured hold 41. And now we know this is where the action is in this girls' finals. She has 4 competitors above her in the leaderboard. Mia Guttenberger is next. She made a move and a half more, gaining 45 plus. Ina really taking her time about initiating this final sequence. I think she knows that it's sort of do or die in this position. She obviously feels like she can get something back in this position and recoup a little bit of energy. Try and freshen up those forearms for one last burn in this last upper section of this route. She's completed 85% of the climb at this stage, 90% even. Only a few hand movements to go. With 45 seconds on the clock, she really needs to initiate. Obviously, she has no prior experience of these moves, so she doesn't know what she's going to run into. This is the first time we might see time play a factor here. Simone Reina, the Master of Ceremonies, live, really encouraging her, asking the crowd to get behind her. And she's fighting with that pocket that we've seen others fail. Powerful move up, and no, just not enough in the tank to make the distance. That's an immense effort. A provisional position is with 46 plus, 3rd place for Ina from France, with only 2 female athletes to go. Isia Martinez Alejandros will be next. And in the men's field, Pierre Marzulu from France. You see Zoe sitting here in the zone of competitors who have already had their turn. She seemed to be looking or working through the moves in her mind there. Not quite sure why, considering she's completed the route. No more mysteries for her. We see that those last moments of Ina's effort. Some of these clips are proving difficult for the climbers. We saw that maybe more in the semi-final route. Obviously, just depends on the more comfortable positions that you find in the wall and how far they really place themselves from the clips. Yeah, that was a clip, an attempted clip as he fell, I believe. So, our penultimate climbers are stepping out into the climbing stadium here in Campitello di Fassa. We have Zoe Petermans and Riccardo Vicentini sitting in 1st place, and the only people who are guaranteed a podium at this stage. with 2 climbers left. Our other climbers who are secured 2nd and 3rd could be disrupted depending on what happens in front of us here. Pierre has chosen to pull on the wall really quite quickly. He's already 30 seconds into his attempt on this men's final route. Giving me the opportunity to look incredibly closely at the way in which he makes this movement now. Oh wow, left, right. So a completely footless moment for Pierre in the center of the lead climbing wall, choosing to dyno completely, left and right at the same time. No hesitation, didn't look tentative at all, great conviction, and he's up into the 40 or 50 degree panel on these 2 yellow sort of layback holds. And now transitioning to these smaller holds in the triangular wooden volumes. Oh, he's climbing beautifully here. Very fluid movement. Yeah, looks comfortable in these positions. A lot of determination being shown here. He's obviously intent on doing some damage to this upper section of this route. He qualified in 2nd place, which should be telling. He's obviously on form this weekend. I haven't seen any signs of any issues. And he looks in good shape here as he finds a nice clamp position on this hexagonal volume for his feet. Just skipping out left. Yeah, quite charismatic climbing. Ooh, quite a swift execution of that difficult move to the poor hold with his right hand. But it didn't look in any doubt. He didn't lock it out as some of the other guys have, but he was very accurate and he's made it count. And now we're up into the really steep section where he needs to travel out left with his feet to oppose his hands. Excellent stuff. Meanwhile, Zia Almendros is closing in on the end of the traverse section on the women's route. Pierre looking good. I'm going to focus on him as he makes a high clip. Now momentarily this is where we lost our previous competitor, but Pierre's looking strong. Even chalking up on this small crimp before he makes it to the 2nd crimp with his left hand. And now he's into a hold. A really poor hold with his right hand. And is he going to make the top of this route? We've got some compression to come, and he manages to hold the swing footless. And a dynamic move to the last hold, which looked abysmal. And unfortunately doesn't manage to hold it, but he's just given us the most exciting attempt on the top section of this route that we've seen. And in fact, the first time we've seen those upper movements. Congratulations, Pierre. That's a justified catapult to the top of the leaderboard for you with 41 plus. His score now towers over Riccardo Vicentini, who scored 37. And the point at which he reached on the route looked particularly high. But Pierre's obliterated that. Meanwhile, Zia Martinez Almendros is steadily climbing the leaderboard. She's moved from her starting position of 7th into 6th. She's got some work to do to close in on Maya Guttenberger, who is the German athlete who made 45 plus. We see Zia now making it to 42. Fighting a little, but still looking strong. Yeah, just trying to recover there with the right hand, taking a bit of shape. But we know there's no more recovery to come on this route. If she commits to moving out left, there will be nothing coming back in the tank, I don't believe. Powerful move now, and just not enough in the tank, unfortunately. And she takes a fall. Only a few moves from the top of the route. And provisionally scoring 46 plus. which sits her in third position. I'm going to say that's open to change because these are live scores that I'm reloading. I'll be sure that that won't be open to some appeal or change based on the judging here, but at the moment that seems to be standing. Yeah, that was an excellent effort. And choosing to commence with the upper section of the climb has actually paid off because she reached that 46 plus position with 4 minutes and 14 seconds opposed to Inya, who chose to rest in the violet volumes prior to that final sequence, which has obviously cost her there because the timing of the execution has left her in 4th position and outside of the podium. So I'm incredibly excited and privileged to announce Laura Rogora from Trento in Italy as our last competitor here at the climbing stadium of Val di Fassa, and Rhys Connellan from Great Britain, who is our last male competitor. All eyes on these two as Laura makes swift work of these first moves. Precise, fast execution from her. I believe these moves will be plenty within her limit. So there's a bit of margin for error, and she can maybe rush through them to save some time on the wall and potentially save some energy. She's an incredibly experienced route climber, and with a fair wind, she would be the favourite for this competition. But we've seen Zoe top this route, so Laura's going to need a top if she wants to beat Zoe's score, relying on count back to previous rounds. Remember, Laura managed to top the women's semi-final route. She was the only climber to do so. So you'd hope she would stand a strong chance of managing it here, but these women are in a different profile. They were in a much steeper profile and more continuous profile previously. One might say this profile and this climb might suit Laura a little better. So I'll be watching with bated breath as she makes her way through this traverse and gets into the upper section. Meanwhile, Rhys is motoring on this climb. He's in the last stages of the 50-degree panel, this grey panel on the right-hand side of the Adele climbing structure. And he's about to have to show us his mustard as he heads to that small yellow crimp that I've got my eyes trained on at the very peak of the pillar, this green pillar, which he's moving into now as he kicks his left foot out right and matches the pinch. He seems quite central there with both hands, but he's managed to make that match work. Just second guesses this movement, but then makes it in good fashion. Nice, Rhys. Great execution. I mean, if these moments are telling, in that moment he looked very calm and collected. But the pump can build in a sport climbing situation and take you by surprise. But he's a fit young man, and he looks like he's climbing in good control at the moment. Particular control from Rhys here. A little tentative moment there. But yeah, he's found relative security with the heel hook. And now he's going to be eyeing up the top of the wall. He's in a position which can afford him a little bit of respite prior to these final movements, and he's taking it as we feel the breeze pick up, moving from right to left, or sorry, left to right across the wall. It's maybe not as poignant or prominent as it was during the semi-final stage, but Laura said she could feel it on the wall during the semi-finals, so I would hazard a guess that these climbers can get a little something from that breeze, cooling them off as they Rhys now moves up into the final movements of this route. He's looking good. Excellent from Rhys. This is tough now. Can he make the left hand? Okay, so we've matched the previous competitor, And he dynos to the top and holds the sloper without a problem. Incredible. Incredible climbing from Reese. Oh, look at that reaction. He's fired up to top that route and take the win. Last climber to come out. Only male climber to top the route. We had a valiant effort from Pierre with 41 plus, but he just could not hold the top hold. It looked too slopey for him. And although he made good contact with it, he wasn't in enough control and couldn't hold the swing and he was off. But Reese looked solid. Looked like he had more in the tank to give. Fantastic stuff from the young man. Now, the stadium's energy builds and all eyes are trained on Laura as she moves up into the upper section of this wall. She's looking good, but we know this move can be a bit dicey. There is a blocker above. And she makes an even greater dynamic move over the top and secures the final hold. Yet that did not look in any doubt. She's really pleased to take the win on home soil. Amazing stuff from Laura. Fantastic finale. What a culmination to this competition. I really enjoyed the semi-finals. They were excellent routes and worth going back to watch. But this finals, everything has come together with a beautiful crescendo, with our last climbers out in the stadium managing to take the only two tops of these routes. Excuse me. Taking two tops of these routes, and Zoe Petermans in the women's category taking the only other top. Unfortunately for her, Laura pips her to the win, pushes Zoe off the top spot due to their prior scores in the semi-finals. Zoe will have to settle for second place, whilst Julia Chanrodi from France will take third. And in the men's, we have Reese Connellan from Great Britain, who just watched climb, take the only top, and Pierre just half a move behind him, taking second place. And we have an Italian athlete, Riccardo Vicentini, taking third. Wow, this is Reese in those final moments of this route. Yeah, no pause for thought there. You can see him chomping at the bit, just wanting to close that route in style. Didn't look any danger of not making the top. Very decisive climbing from him. Powerful stuff. Beautifully executed. Laura, wow, really wheeling over with the left hand and making it to part of the hold that didn't leave any doubt. Well, that's been a fantastic finals. I can't thank you all enough for joining us. I've been James Blay of Appiano Distribution Studio. I hope you've enjoyed watching, either live or as a replay on either sportface.tv or YouTube. From Campitello di Fassa and the Adele climbing wall, this has been the European Cup first round 2025, and make sure you stay tuned for the next round in Switzerland next month, and finally the third and final round at the end of October, beginning of November from Toulouse in France. Thanks again for joining us, and good night.
Allora ragazzi, che gara che abbiamo visto, che Laura strepitosa, e alle volte sai, per noi che abbiamo le scarpe da ginnastica e rimaniamo coi piedi per terra, diciamo vabbè, ma lei è fortissima e quindi è facile. Io in realtà so quanto è difficile quando sei una primatista del mondo mettersi in gioco e vivere anche una pressione sportiva della responsabilità di essere stata 2 volte olimpionica, vincitrice in Coppa del Mondo, sei la campionessa europea in carica, e quindi secondo me è stata bellissima la tua performance, non solo dal punto di vista sportivo ma anche dal punto di vista di testa, di essere riuscita a scalare libera, pulita e tranquilla, senza pensare a questa persona ma esprimendo la tua miglior scalata.
Sì, diciamo che partire un po', diciamo, da favoriti è sempre difficile, e devo dire che negli ultimi anni ho imparato comunque a gestire questa pressione e a godermi la scalata. Ieri e oggi mi sono proprio divertita, le vie erano belle e sì, come hai detto te, comunque non è mai facile confermarsi, quindi sono contenta.
Assolutamente, per noi è stato uno spettacolo vederti così con questa serenità, e ovviamente io immagino che questo sia un po' un test per la settimana prossima, perché iniziamo con la competizione major, che è quella della Coppa del Mondo con Innsbruck.
Sì, diciamo che ho fatto già le prime 2 tappe 2 mesi fa, però appunto è passato 1 mese e mezzo, quindi volevo un attimo rientrare in gara e ritrovare un po' le sensazioni della gara, e diciamo che sono contenta e sono pronta per la prossima settimana.
Prossima settimana appuntamento a breve termine, però sappiamo che sarà una stagione sicuramente molto lunga, con un appuntamento importante verso la fine dell'anno.
Sì, l'appuntamento più importante è a fine settembre, è il mondiale, e quindi la stagione è ancora lunga e ancora c'è tanto da lavorare per arrivare al massimo a quell'appuntamento.
Allora, grazie Laura, in bocca al lupo per tutto. Campitello, un altro applauso per la vincitrice della prima tappa di Coppa Europa Lead 2025, Laura Rogora, grazie. So, I'm looking for Rhys Collon. Where are you, Rhys? Please, you kindly come there for the interview, for the live. Okay. So, Rhys, first of all, congratulations for your victory. And I think that this victory, this gold medal for you, it's a kind of achievement that comes from a previous path in which you start from the youth competition, and little by little you go on the hard ladder to achieve your first gold medal in the senior category.
Yeah, I've never won anything before. I'm podium, always third, and I've never won. So yeah, it feels amazing. Thank you.
Thank you to you. And what about, which is your opinion about the settings, the environment, the competition here in Italy?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it sounds great. The crowd's awesome. I love competing here. It's great. Yeah, I love it.
And what about the next step for your season? Because first gold in the senior category, now we are stepping into Innsbruck. That for sure is an important appointment. So which is the plan for Rhys in the next month?
I'm doing the World Cups in Innsbruck, Chamonix, Madrid. I'm going to try semi-final. I'll do my best. See how it goes. That's all I can really do.
Okay, and just my personal question, you are overall climber. I know that you have done also bouldering competition, and so just for the audience, which is your best? You love more, bouldering or lead?
Definitely lead. Yeah, for sure, lead.
Too much struggling bouldering.
Yeah, nah, lead's better.
Okay, so congratulations again, and thank you, Rhys, and congratulations for the victory. Facciamogli un applauso. Ok, direi che dopo questi quick check con i vincitori abbiamo ancora del tempo, possiamo fare un fuori programma di 30 secondi. Mi dicono di sì dalla regia. A me mi piacciono i fuori programma, mi piacciono tantissimo. E Riccardo? Dov'è Riccardo? Riccardo? Eccolo. Guarda, a me farebbe piacere se tu venissi qua, però magari, cioè, se non vuoi no, potresti anche non farlo. Se vuoi farlo, fallo, però potresti anche non farlo. Facciamo un applauso a Enrico Vicentini. Allora Ricky, hai fatto una cosa pazzesca. Hai fatto una cosa pazzesca. Hai scalato meravigliosamente, hai scalato concentrato. A noi ci piace chiamarti il lupo proprio per questo tuo istinto arrampicatorio. Sei passato ad essere campione giovanile, a fare un terzo posto in Coppa Europa giovanile e oggi ti porti a casa una medaglia in Coppa Europa Senior. Raccontaci le tue sensazioni.
Mi senti? Ok. Sono molto contento per questo risultato. Primo risultato, primo podio in Coppa Europa Senior e in una gara senior. Ora come ora non so esprimere le mie emozioni, sono un sacco di cose che vedo, un sacco di emozioni che mi passano davanti, le parole non riescono a descriverle, quindi semplicemente sono contentissimo, sento qualcosa dentro che sta per esplodere, questo è tutto, ecco.
Devo dirti che anch'io sono un po' emozionato perché, come sai, abbiamo fatto tante gare insieme, tu da un lato, io dall'altro. Vabbè, la domanda a questo punto, se agli altri, non so, a una Laura chiedo la parte più progettuale, a te ti faccio una domanda simile ma differente. Qual è il tuo sogno?
Il mio sogno è continuare questa incredibile vita che sto facendo da atleta e magari riuscire anche a entrare in un gruppo sportivo per appunto poter continuare questo anche in concomitanza con l'università e allenarmi sempre di più, allenarmi con i miei amici e fare quello che mi sveglio la mattina e voglio fare, quindi andare sempre più avanti senza magari dandosi dei obiettivi ovviamente, però l'obiettivo più importante è divertirsi e oggi mi sono divertito un sacco e il risultato ce l'ho avuto. Quello è il primo posto, i risultati vengono subito dopo.
E allora facciamo di nuovo i complimenti e ringraziamo Riccardo per la sua scalata e per il ragazzo che è. Grazie Ricky, applauso Campitello! Allora, direi che siamo a posto e possiamo quindi procedere con le premiazioni. Se gli atleti ci sono, chiedo supporto a Arianna 30 come sempre responsabile di queste fasi di premiazione. Direi che tutte le persone coinvolte per la parte di premiazione sono presenti. Salutiamo anche il sindaco e direttore della Val di Fassa. Però ci mancano gli atleti direi che sono necessari. O no? Cosa dici? Direi di sì. Andiamo a cercare gli atleti. Ah, ok. E allora siamo ufficialmente pronti con le premiazioni. Ok, so ladies and gentlemen, we are officially ready for the award ceremony for the first European Lead Cup 2025. So please welcome in the stadium the podium for the female category. So ladies and gentlemen, third place and bronze medalist for the EFC European Cup Val di Fassa 2025, representing France, Giulia Chanardi. Premia Edoardo Felicetti, procuratore del Comune Generale di Fassa. Second place and silver medalist for the EFC European Cup Val di Fassa 2025, representing Great Britain, Zoe Petermans. Premia Nicolò Weiss, direttore APT Val di Fassa. And so, ladies and gentlemen, now here we are. First place, gold medalist and winner for the EFC Val di Fassa European Cup 2025. Representing Italy, Laura Rogora. Premia Davide Battistella, presidente della Federazione Arrampicata Sportiva Italiana. And now, please, everybody stand up if you can for the national anthem of Italy. Ladies and gentlemen, the medalist for the EFC European Cup Val di Fassa 2025. Foto tutta insieme diritto sul gradino più alto del podio, voilà. Grazie ragazze, ultimo applauso Campitello. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we can go on welcoming in the stadium the medalist for the male category. So, ladies and gentlemen, third place and bronze medalist for the EFC European Cup Val di Fassa 2025, representing Italy, Riccardo Vicentini. Premia Alessandro Bernard, sindaco di Campitello di Fassa. So, ladies and gentlemen, second place, silver medalist for the EFC European Cup Val di Fassa 2025, representing France, Pierre Marzullo. Premia Nicolò Veis, direttore dell'APT di Val di Fassa. And so, now here we are, ladies and gentlemen. First place, gold medalist and winner for the EFC European Cup Val di Fassa 2025, representing Great Britain, Rhys Conlon. Premia Davide Battistella, presidente della Federazione Arrampicata Sportiva Italiana. And so please, everybody stand up if you can for the national anthem of Great Britain. ladies and gentlemen, the medalist for the UFC European Cup Val di Fassa 2025. Thank you guys. E quindi, purtroppo, carissima Campitello, io vi ringrazio di cuore perché ci avete accolto e ci avete fatto vivere dei giorni come una grandissima famiglia, e quindi io personalmente vi do il mio grazie perché è stato bellissimo essere qui con voi. Ovviamente do il grazie alla Federazione Arrampicata Sportiva Italiana, a tutta l'organizzazione della Val di Fassa Climbing, a Ellison, Alice Gianelli per i giudici, ai ragazzi dello streaming, alla Manu e Andrea di Keep Live, a tutti i ragazzi di Out There, responsabili di tutta la parte media, che vi invitiamo a condividere, taggando ovviamente i responsabili. Spero di non starmi dimenticando nessuno, ovviamente Davide Battistella, Arianna Trenta per la federazione, thank you to the International Federation of Sport Climbing. E come sempre, l'ultimo, il più mio, al ragazzo dietro alle console, Andrea Ciscato. Anche questa è andata, grazie a tutti, ci vediamo alla prossima, ciao Campitello!